Welcome. It is that time of the month. Another live stream from Noah Church. I've got a collection of questions that have been sent to me over the past few weeks from subscribers on my email list. And I'm also going to be answering as many questions as possible from people who are here viewing live. So put your questions in the chat. It's lovely to be here with you. And we will get started. My first question to answer today is, hey Noah, I'm on day 37, and suddenly yesterday my mood got off. Libido decreased, no sexual desire, also lack of interest in activities as I usually do in my daily routine, such as going outside, reading books, and watching cricket. I'm totally depressed. I don't know what to do. I'm very worried and also have negative thoughts that I will never get rid of ED. Am I in a flatline or not? Well, you're on day 37, which is a great start, a great foundation to your recovery to get past a month and be building on that. But you're still in a very turbulent time of recovery. You should expect the unexpected, expect maybe ups and downs, expect to go into a flat line. And the fact that you yesterday lost your libido, lost your sexual desire or your interest in activities and in life, and your mood is lower, it's something that you should be expecting and prepared for along this journey. There are going to be days where your brain is rebelling in one fashion or another. Maybe you can't concentrate, maybe you're feeling depressed or unable to concentrate. And if that's the case, know that it is only a sign that the porn you were using and the behavior you were engaged in was in fact having an effect on your brain, because otherwise being without it wouldn't be causing these symptoms. And that is only a sign that you're on the right path, being porn free and allowing your brain to adjust and become accustomed to a porn free life. So 37 days in, I wait until it's lasted for about a week to call something a flatline. Right now, it could just be a day or two that you're feeling off, and then maybe the next day you're bouncing back. A flatline tends to be longer, usually 2 weeks to 2 months, and so I wait until it's lasted at least a week to start labeling it a flatline. But you should not be worried at this point that you're never going to recover. Most people take a lot longer than 37 days to fully recover. So you're still well within the window where you can expect to be experiencing these ups and downs and not yet see the full benefits of recovery. So be patient with this and keep going forward. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to answer a couple questions from the chat now. First person to show up and ask questions. Thank you for being here. And this is a question I get quite a lot, actually, so you're definitely not alone in this. He asks, can 500 days of hard mode eliminate the need for rewiring with a partner? I have a traditional arranged marriage. I need to perform and consummate the marriage on that first night. So, a lot of people are in your situation. I've worked with a lot of clients who had that same question. And there's good news and there's bad news and there's some more good news. So the first good news is that a long period of rebooting, being porn free, being perhaps largely masturbation free, or at least free from any porn substitutes, can get you to the point where you are physically capable of successfully having sex on that first try. It totally is possible. The bad news is that it won't replace the need for rewiring. Like, you're not going to be able to get to the point where you're fully recovered and confident in your ability to consistently have successful sex until you actually practice that skill, until you practice intimacy and practice sex. So that's the bad news. And part of that bad news is that that first time, even if you're physically ready, you might not have success if you are caught up in your head, filled with anxiety, filled with self-doubt. All of those emotions and that discomfort of having this new experience can prevent you from being able to relax and get aroused enough to enjoy sex. But that is something that applies to anybody, regardless of whether or not they have used porn to the point that you have developing porn-induced ED. And the other good news is that a lot of the guys I've worked with who are in your situation discovered that they can be honest about at least parts of their truth, which is that, they've never had sex before, which is supposed to be true of most people in their cultures who are going into a marriage, and that they're nervous about it, which is totally understandable, and that they are feeling a lot of pressure about that first night and just want to be open and honest about that, and that it might take them a little bit more time, maybe a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, before you get to that point of being able to fully enjoy full sex. But most of them have found that that was okay, and that they didn't actually have to fully consummate the marriage that very first night, but that they were able to do so within the first couple of weeks, the first month. And hopefully it's the same in your situation, and there won't be that immense amount of pressure to do it that very first night. You have an entire life together, so hopefully doesn't have to be that big rush to do it on that very first night. But even if there is, it is possible for you to get to that point where you're sensitive enough physically that you are capable of sex. And even if it's not perfect, or it feels awkward sometimes, it is possible that you'll be able to have sex in some fashion that first night, even if it's not great. It's probably going to get a lot better over time as you practice it and as you get more comfortable with your new spouse. Hello. If I see 10 seconds of porn, is that a relapse? So that question of does this count as a relapse is one that I get very, very frequently. And honestly, it's one that's kind of annoying to me, because only you can really decide what counts as a relapse for you. You have to be in charge of your own recovery program and be honest with yourself. So a relapse, what the definition of a relapse is a return to your previous ways that you're trying to get away from, that you're trying to undo. So if you see viewing it for 10 seconds as a relapse, that's up to you. If I were still in that stage of recovery and I had looked at porn for 10 seconds, I would think of that more as a slip, and I would mark that on my calendar that this happened on this day, but I wouldn't necessarily restart my streak counter or view it as a full relapse, but I would see it as something that needed to be a wake-up call. Like, I need to understand what brought me to this point and how can I prevent myself from getting there and beyond in the future. Was I stressed? Did I have an opportunity with the device that I shouldn't have had? Maybe I need more protections on my device. Maybe it was late at night. I came home after drinking with friends and I just was not in my right mind. Maybe I need to cut back on the drinking for a while, or make sure that my device isn't available to me late at night. Something like that. Learn a lesson from this slip. That's what's really important. Whether you label it a slip or a relapse, the important thing is to learn from it and apply that knowledge in a hopeful and optimistic way and a productive way, rather than punishing yourself for what happened. Does NoFap really bring a hard erection back, and also spontaneous erections, which we get usually in our day-to-day lives? So yes, for a lot of people, it does. For some people, maybe they have issues that are not related to their porn or masturbation habits, and in that case, seek the counsel of a physician. But yes, for people who are struggling with erectile difficulties from their porn use, from their masturbation use, yes, I've seen it work hundreds, if not thousands of times, and I've experienced it myself. If your issue is porn-induced erectile dysfunction, it can be reversed with the protocol of being porn-free permanently, perhaps being masturbation-free at least temporarily, or changing your masturbation habits to be healthier, and rewiring. So practicing real intimacy, practicing real touch and sex with a partner. And it might take as little as a month or two, to get to that point where you're having sex. It might take as long as a year or more, but however long it takes, it's not that long in comparison to the rest of your life, and it is very, very much worth it. Hello, Noah. I'm at day 84, and I'm doing pretty good. I have 2 questions. I had yesterday and 2 weeks ago a wet dream. Is this a setback or not? Also, I want to ask you if after the 90 days I can do mindful masturbation. So, wet dreams, they might give you that feeling after they happen of feeling like you've had a setback, especially in early recovery. If they're happening, you might feel like, oh, my libido's gone after the wet dream, or maybe some of the benefits I was experiencing, like mental clarity, aren't as sharp. But it's not to be viewed as a relapse. If it's something that it's just happening and it's out of your control, don't worry about it. It's not going to prevent you from recovering. If it is something that you feel like you have some control over, like when you're dreaming, you're aware that you're dreaming and it's a sexual dream, if you can wake yourself up, great, do it. But if you're not able to do that, don't punish yourself for it. Don't worry about it. It's not going to prevent you from healing. And yes, many people who, even those who have struggled with pornography addictions for years, can develop a healthier relationship to porn-free masturbation at some point in their recovery journey. And if you want to learn all about that, search my channel for the video, Is Masturbation Healthy or Not? And I go point by point down the different guidelines and tips that I give people who want to be able to masturbate in a healthy way without allowing it to become a slippery slope back toward porn use. And that can come with advantages, especially if you're single and don't want to be completely like a monk, completely celibate. You want to be able to engage with your sexual energy once in a while in a healthy way. It can be helpful. It can also be helpful to, if you have only ever masturbated with porn, to start exploring your own real, valid, and authentic sexuality. So exploring your own fantasies that aren't inspired by porn. And it can actually be a step in the rewiring process. It certainly won't get you all the way there to being fully rewired, but it can be a step toward rewiring away from being a voyeur, watching other people on a screen, and start imagining yourself in the main character role in realistic situations. Another commenter asked about wet dreams as well. He said, hey, I just found your channel and I have a question I've been wanting an answer to, so maybe you can help me. I'm 3 months clean of PMO, and about a month ago, things went back to normal, but I find whenever I have a wet dream, I get sent back into a flatline. Is that a normal thing for people going through PIED, or should I be worried? Yeah, just like I said to the previous guy, if you are experiencing a wet dream and it does feel like a setback, I know that's frustrating. If it is within your control to wake yourself up, you can do so. You can also intentionally avoid sexual thoughts and fantasies as you're going to sleep, because that, anecdotally at least, can lead to more frequent wet dreams. But if it's happening outside of your control, try not to worry about it. You're still, even at 3 months, in the middle phase of recovery, and there's plenty more time for your sexual system to improve and to strengthen itself, and maybe you'll become less vulnerable to the after effects of wet dream or orgasm as time goes on. I found out, I think this is a woman poster, I found out my fiance was watching transgender porn, and I was mad. I kicked him out. It's been a month and a half that he left, but he wants us to get back together. Is it possible that he can stop? Our sex is good. We have seen each other a few times, and because he's been depressed and sad, he had a hard time reaching orgasm. Is it really that, or is it because of porn? He is so ashamed when I bring it up. Yeah, a lot of people in their use of pornography escalate to genres of porn that maybe they're not comfortable with, maybe they're ashamed of or embarrassed by, maybe it doesn't align well with their own feeling of their sexual identity as it is when guys escalate to using transgender pornography. For some people, that attraction to people who aren't cisgendered females might be just a part of their natural sexuality. It doesn't mean that they need to engage in that to have a fulfilling sex life. If they're also just attracted to cis women, then it's certainly possible to just have a relationship with a cis woman and enjoy that and have a wonderful life together. But a lot of people who do escalate to using transgender porn, it doesn't actually seem to be a natural part of their sexuality. And they often feel that if they had never gone down that rabbit hole of chasing the high of internet porn and found transgender pornography that way, that it never really would have emerged as a desire within them. And it might not even be a desire that they have if they meet a transgender woman in real life. And it's just something that they've become accustomed to on a screen because it provides more stimulation in certain ways than vanilla pornography with cis actors. And that stimulation doesn't even necessarily have to be all positive. It can be including emotions like shock or discomfort. Anything like that will actually increase the amount of dopamine being released in the brain. And if you're already aroused because you're engaged in masturbation and watching porn, and now you're throwing in extra emotions that are putting more dopamine into the mix, it's raising the level of stimulation that you're experiencing, which is often something that people need after years of using porn and desensitizing themselves to that stimulation. And that's why it can become a part of that cycle, because they're desensitized enough that they're not getting the full enjoyment of real sexual contact with a partner. And they find that they need to rely on those more extreme forms of content that they found online in order to get the same levels or similar levels of stimulation as before. But the great news is that once someone stops using porn and allows themselves enough time to recover and regain their sensitivity, they often don't need those things anymore and might even no longer be interested in them. Plenty of people I've worked with have lost interest in those escalated sexual preferences that they gained through their porn use in the process of recovery. And that could happen to your fiance as well. It's also possible that it might always be something that arouses him or turns him on, but doesn't necessarily have to be something that he needs in his life. Like, it is totally possible to not have to engage every single thing you're interested in sexually in order to have a sexually satisfying life. Plenty of couples are not perfectly compatible in all their desires, but they find where they overlap and they enjoy that overlap and they explore each other in their sexual relationship as a couple. And that can be a beautiful thing. So I hope that things work out well for you too, and that you strive to understand each other and be open and honest with each other. I know how difficult it is to work through this in a relationship, especially when you're discovering things about your partner that you didn't know or never suspected. It's very difficult, but I have seen many couples come out stronger the other side with more trust and more understanding of each other than ever before. And I hope that happens for you too. Can you use and think of Cialis as methadone as you come off the drug of porn? So the question being, can Cialis be helpful as you are transitioning from using porn all the time to a porn-free sex life? And the answer is maybe, but it can also be harmful. So it's harmful when someone is using Cialis or a similar drug to push their body to be able to perform for sex before their body is really ready. And the metaphor I often use is that it's like you've been, abusing, like maybe your ankle for a long time. Maybe you're doing lots of trail running and you're twisting your ankle or something, and then you finally, injure it badly enough that you can't really walk anymore. And you go get it treated, you get it, put in a splint, you get it wrapped up, and you are first allowing it to just have some time to heal. You're keeping it elevated, you're keeping your weight off of it, and then eventually it heals enough that you can take off the splint, start to put a little weight on it, start to stretch it, gently reintroduce some activity. But if you just take some painkillers and go for another run when you're ankle is not yet healed enough for that, it's only going to aggravate and lengthen the recovery process. And it can be similar with Cialis and PIED recovery as well. However, if your body is physically ready, it's been long enough in recovery that you've regained your sensitivity, you've regained your physical ability to become aroused and stay aroused with a partner. Still, I wouldn't recommend using Cialis, because the best thing to do then is to practice intimacy, is to work through any lingering feelings of self-doubt or anxiety that you might have from your history of sexual dysfunction, to talk openly with your partner about that and rewire in that way together, building comfort and building trust and building that rewired sexual arousal response to your partner. But some people find that even after doing all that work, they just need a confidence booster. And for them, Cialis or a similar drug can be that confidence booster. They use it to get a little bit of sexual experience and build some positive emotions into their sex life, and then they quickly wean themselves off. And if you're using it in that way, with a prescription, of course, then it can be helpful. But most people really do not need it, and I very, very rarely recommend it. Noah, in your opinion, is PIED one of the worst illnesses to recover from? It is a very slow and long process of a lot of emotional suffering. There are things about it that make it especially difficult. One of those is that it's just hard to talk about it with other people. A lot of people might not understand or might be uncomfortable discussing sexual topics, and so it can be very isolating, much more than many other illnesses. But I'd much rather have PIED than a lot of other things, because PIED is totally reversible without surgery or medications or anything like that, and it's not terminal. It's not going to lead to the end of your life, unless, of course, it distresses you enough that you take your own life. But I truly, when I speak with people who are considering that, I always have to encourage them that this is a temporary problem, and a permanent solution to a temporary problem is not the way you want to go. And it's not even a solution. There's so much ahead of you to cherish and to look forward to and to be excited about if you have PIED, because it is reversible. So, do I think it's one of the worst illnesses out there? Actually, no. I think it's one of the worst understood illnesses out there. And that's why I'm doing what I do. That's why I wrote the book in 2014 and have been speaking out ever since, is because I wanted people to be able to understand what was going on if they were having these struggles. So it's one of the worst understood, but I'd much rather have PIED than cancer or diabetes or many other illnesses that might not be curable or might have a lot more risk of terminality. Hello, sir. I feel weak if I do sex more than once a week. Is it the same with all those who masturbated for a decade in their teens? Is this the point that semen retention guys want to say? I read in their channel that 5,000 ejaculations are all a man has in his lifetime, after which he will be drained and have a diseased old age. I don't know about that. I don't know that there's any evidence for that 5,000 number. But if you are still in the first 6-9 months of recovery, and you're finding that you can only have sex once a week, then it's definitely still possible that you are recovering your sexual strength, and that in time you will be able to have sex more often without feeling drained by it. But you can also enjoy Carezza-style sex in the meantime, in which you have sexual intimacy without orgasm, at least without the male orgasm. And if you do that, a lot of guys who engage in that type of sex find that they don't feel drained, that they feel more energized afterward. And that way you can enjoy sex more often by limiting your orgasms. You don't have to practice Carezza every single time, but it can be a useful tool to practice if you find that you have a limited number of orgasms before you feel drained and unable to enjoy sexual intimacy. If I go 3 weeks without orgasm and then I have one with a partner, did I still make progress on my journey, or are the 3 weeks erased? Definitely. Yeah, if you're like most people on this journey, trying to get back to that point of having the ability to enjoy sex and orgasm with a partner, then yeah, you're doing great. If you're been porn free for several weeks and you were able to have sex and have an orgasm with a partner, then probably that's a very good sign. You might want to be cautious about how often you have sex and orgasm. Often when someone gets to that point in recovery where they are able to have sex again, they might overdo it. And it's just like that the ankle metaphor of, oh, my ankle feels good, I'm going to go for a run. Oh, I'm going to keep running, I'm going to run a whole marathon. Well, maybe you should take it easy for the first couple of weeks, Go for a brisk walk and then go for a run a couple days later, but not too far. Build up the activity slowly rather than going all at once. Hey Noah, with your PIED recovery, did you recover gradually? I'm at the start of the 5th month, getting a bit harder morning wood and a fair few wet dreams. But I haven't had a full erection yet that lasts long. Do you think I can still recover? Okay, buddy. Yes, I do think you can still recover. If you're worried that something else is going on apart from PIED, you can absolutely go get yourself checked out by a physician. But it's very common for people with PIED to still be struggling within 5 months. And for me, it was gradual. There were ups, there were downs. Sometimes I felt like I was fully healed, and sometimes I felt like I hadn't made any progress at all. But eventually, I did get to that point where I felt like, oh, this is what sex should feel like, and I feel fully recovered. And for me, that was at about 8 months. And then I sabotaged it by relapsing and struggling with relapse for another year and had to recover all over again. But I'm sure you won't make that mistake. What's healthy masturbation? So, like I said, I go into detail about that in my video, Is Masturbation Healthy or Not? But a few things to know about healthy masturbation. First, it shouldn't be a one-to-one replacement for when you were using porn. Often when someone is using porn or using whatever other thing they're addicted to, it's because of an emotional reason. They're trying to cope with a difficult emotion, whether that's boredom or stress or loneliness, etc. And if you're using masturbation in the same way, it's not a good sign. You should be coping with those emotions in ways that directly address those emotions rather than just give you some stimulation that distract you from those emotions. If you're lonely, make some connection. Talk with someone, give someone a call, go out. If you are stressed, well, find other ways to relax or address the source of the stress directly. If you are bored, well, the world is filled with things to do. And brainstorm some ways that you can spend that time when you're bored and spend that energy in ways that you'll feel good about after you're done rather than just while you're doing it. Healthy masturbation. Number 2, if you're using fantasy, it should be realistic fantasy, grounded in reality. Stick to just a single fantasy rather than switching fantasies while you masturbate as if you're switching tabs watching porn. It's something that you should do when you're feeling good already. So, say you've had a good day, you're feeling some sexual energy, you just kind of want to enjoy that sexual energy and help yourself feel good. Great. But if you're feeling bad, like I said before, and you want to use masturbation as a way to make yourself feel better, that feeds into the compulsive cycle of relying on masturbation as a solution to an emotional problem, rather than just something you enjoy once in a while. So those are a few to get you started, but definitely go to that video for more information on healthy masturbation. Hey Noah, despite having this bad fapping habit, I'm still able to have successful sex, but I have no feeling in my penis, and I can't orgasm no matter what the girl does to me. I'm numb down there. Not only going on in 1 year break from packing and sex. I'm not sure what you said there, but I'll answer your first question. Um, yeah, many people have that reduced sensitivity, that inability to orgasm, anorgasmia, as it's called, after a long time using porn and masturbation. I experienced it myself, even after recovering enough that my PIED was largely gone. It was still extremely difficult for me often to reach climax. And a few tips for being able to deal with that. First, if you are still masturbating, make sure you're doing so in a way that's gentle and lubricated. One thing that often leads to this is using overly rough stimulation or stimulation that feels very dissimilar to penetrative sex when you're masturbating. And so your body can become accustomed to this. It can reduce its own sensitivity. So if you are masturbating still, do so in a way that is gentle and lubricated and similar in sensation to real sex. Second, while you are having sex, try not to worry so much about reaching orgasm. If it's feeling difficult, just don't do it. Enjoy sex, enjoy the process and the journey of sex without worrying about getting to that destination. The more you do that, the more relaxed you'll become. You'll just be able to enjoy the process and get out of your own head. And you will eventually get to that point where it just happens naturally and easily, especially if you are not giving yourself orgasms through masturbation. That's really, if you want to recover as quickly as possible, what I recommend. Just avoid orgasm unless it happens easily and naturally during penetrative sex. And if you do that, your body will be forced to adapt. So it's great, though, that you are able to have sex. You're in a position that a lot of guys would envy. Even if you are still having difficulty feeling sensitive or reaching climax, you are able to have sex. So that's a great point from which to be able to make further incremental progress in your sensitivity. We've got a few more questions here. After years of training for the wrong sport, how do you get over the fear of performance, especially if it's kind of late and it's your first time? So yeah, what he's saying there is, he's been training for the wrong sport by practicing masturbation to a screen when the real sport he wants to play is real sexual intimacy, real contact with another human being. And I understand the nerves that you have there. And I made a video all about this called Overcoming Sexual Performance Anxiety, where I go deep into these tips. But the few most important things to know are, number one, it's not anything you have to be ashamed of. And if you have a partner who is worth spending your time with, you're going to be able to be open with them, at least about, not having much sexual experience and being nervous. And they're going to be supportive about that. And it's not going to be something that you have to hide or be ashamed of. And if you do feel like you have to do that with the person that you're with, and you have good reason to feel that they wouldn't accept you that way, then maybe you're not with the right person, at least for this portion of your journey and of your life. So when you do have the ability to be open and honest with your partner, just tell them, I'm nervous, I don't have much sexual experience, it might take me a while to get used to this. It can be a fun process, and you can find a partner who is not just willing, but excited to be part of that process with you and help introduce you to the joys of real sex. Some other tips are, know that anxiety exists both in your mind and in your body. And by sensing how your body is reacting to that anxiety, you can have a lever of control over your mental anxiety. For instance, if you're noticing that your muscles are tensing up or your breathing is getting shallow, you can consciously loosen your muscles and deepen your breathing, and that can help your anxiety on a mental level lower as well. So be in tune with your body. If you are feeling that anxiety or you're having thoughts that are racing or that are keeping you in your head, be willing to also take a time out and pause and just talk. That's where having a partner that you can feel comfortable talking to about this is so important. I'm going to get a drink of water. My throat needs it. Good morning, Brother Noah. I read some articles sometime back where the writer talked of losing hair as one of the effects resulting from fapping. Today, I'm developing gray hair. I see it increasing every time, but I doubt if I have hair loss because I haven't seen it yet. Could this be something to do with fapping? I've seen this anecdotally, people who are attributing hair loss or like premature signs of aging to over masturbation, and I do believe it's possible. Maybe it exists, but I haven't seen the scientific evidence for it. Maybe it's probably just something that hasn't been studied, but I certainly do see it anecdotally. And in my clients, it's probably more to do with the way that they carry themselves and the way that they feel about themselves. But I often see clients get to look younger the longer they work with me and the longer they're porn free, and they just have a new brightness within them, a new self-confidence and self-assurance, and they look just healthier and younger than they did when I first met them. Hey Noah, I'm wondering about your thoughts on social media in general, especially something like Instagram. I think that porn is literally everywhere, and Instagram includes a lot of sexual graphic content. You're absolutely right. And with some of those social media platforms, it is possible to curate what it's showing you. Clicking, I'm not interested in this, don't show me more things like this, unfollowing accounts that post things that are sexual in nature. And you can tailor your feed over time to be less and less sexual. But it's just a symptom of the algorithm of these social media websites serving up content that it knows people are going to be stimulated by and it knows people are going to look at and engage with. And sex is one of the core principles of us as biological beings, and it's a lever that they know that they can pull, and it gets pulled. So it might be best to limit your social media use, to remove yourself from Instagram if you don't need it for business or for your social life, or to set screen time limits on your phone so that automatically you can only look at it at a certain time of day or a certain number of minutes each day. There are definitely solutions, and social media can be very useful. It can be a great way to keep in touch with people, to organize get-togethers with your friends, social activities, a way to promote your business if you're an entrepreneur. But if you don't intentionally use it in ways that are going to benefit you, it will use you in ways that you end up not liking. I've had a few morning woods in the beginning of my journey, but after that, I've not had one in a long time. When do people have morning wood if they are long-term rebooters? This is sad because I think the first sign that you were recovering is morning wood. Yeah, if you've experienced morning wood in recovery before, but now are in a period where you're not experiencing it, it's not the only sign to look to, but it can indicate that maybe you're in a period of lower libido, maybe it's a flatline. And if so, I know that's scary and frustrating, especially when you did see some signs of recovery before, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be that way forever. Often people do get through that period and they start to experience more morning wood, more subjective desire for real sex, more energy. And you didn't say exactly how long it's been that you've been without morning wood, but my guess is that this is a temporary period and you'll get through it and you'll see morning wood as well as other signs of recovery again. Sid says, thanks for your book. My pleasure. Yeah, it's available for free as a PDF. If you go down to the link tree in the description of this video, you'll see a link to get my book for free. You can subscribe to my email list and get notifications about videos that come out and these live streams that happen every month. And also read that book, which I wrote in 2014. It's not filled with all the latest information and science, but everything in there is still absolutely something that I believe in, and I think it can still help a lot of people uh, get started in this recovery journey. And it is definitely still a good starting point for you if you are just starting this journey for yourself, or if you need to sort of hit the reset button and build a new foundation for yourself of recovery. There's also in that link tree a link to learn more about the group that I run, the Rebooter Support and Discussion Group, which is a paid group. It's $40 US a month through Patreon. And then we meet and have a private server on Discord. And we have several meetings every week. It's a chance for everyone to come in and talk face to face, virtually speaking, with other people who are experiencing similar struggles. And I've seen it help so many guys to feel like they're part of that team. They're no longer going through this alone or just reading the stories of other people, but they build real friendships and they make accountability partnerships that last for a long time and help lift them to new heights in this journey. And it's just really inspiring to see. So I'd love to see more of you guys in that group and talking with me face to face several times a week. Or, most people come to 1 or 2 meetings a week, but you can come to as many as you like. I had used porn substitutes unknowingly. Is it harmful? Yes, using porn substitutes, things that are making you feel similar to how porn made you feel, but that society would not label as porn, can be harmful to you in recovery. It's not going to stop your recovery altogether in all likelihood, but as soon as you become aware that, yeah, this is probably holding me back, that's the time to do something about it. So don't beat yourself up for having done those things, but now that you know, yeah, this is probably going to hold me back, do something about that. Stop whatever activity that is. Now, I don't know exactly what you're talking about when you say a porn substitute. But I wouldn't apply that label to everything sexual. If there, like I said before in this live stream, it is possible to have healthier masturbation that I would not call a porn substitute, or to have real intimate connections with a partner, which I would not necessarily call a porn substitute. But it's also possible to do both those things in a way that is a porn substitute. Maybe you're masturbating while remembering porn or fantasizing about porn-inspired scenes in your mind, or maybe you are using masturbation as an emotional solution, like we talked about earlier, or you're using a real human being in the same way. And those can be porn substitutes. So it's a nuanced topic, but yeah, if you know that your porn substitute use, you say audio, yeah, if you're like listening to stories or listening to things that arouse you, that's definitely a porn substitute. Noah, I'm at a point where I'm feeling depressed and having panic attacks, watching sad movies and listening to sad songs. I'm unable to think rationally. My mind wants to go back. When will this be normal again? Please tell me what to do. It sounds like you're going through some severe emotional withdrawal symptoms. And there might be some other things going on in your life as well. I don't know. And maybe you should be speaking with a therapist or a counselor about what's going on. But I can tell you that it is common for people to experience a lot of emotional turmoil during the period of recovery, characterized by withdrawal symptoms. And if that is indeed what's going on, the solution is to care for yourself in healthy ways, lean on people in your life, find healthier ways to soothe yourself and to relax, and continue giving yourself time to get that distance from porn and allowing your brain to readjust to life without that super stimulus. And you will get through that and come to a point where you have a greater sense of emotional equilibrium. You might find that you are more emotionally sensitive than you were when you were using porn. You might realize that you were kind of numbed out when you were chronically using porn, and that now you are a more emotionally colorful being. And that's okay. That's actually a beautiful thing. It can take some time to get used to, and it won't always feel like it does right now, which sounds like kind of more of a crisis point. But be open to the possibility of a new normal, feeling that your normal is different than it was for so long because what you were accustomed to was not who you really are, it was who you were with porn in your life. Unfortunately for me, I'm gay, and gay men do not want to date. They only want random hookups. I don't know how to find a romantic partner. I feel lost and like I won't ever be able to rewire. I know that, this isn't my personal experience. I'm not gay. I haven't been in your situation looking for a partner who wanted something more serious as a gay man. But I do know that you're not the only one who feels that way. And maybe it's going to be difficult in your area or something, or maybe you have to go online to find, post personal ads looking for something more serious and make connections with other people who are looking for something more serious. But I'm 100% certain you're not the only gay man who feels that way and who is looking for something more serious. So don't give up on that dream. I've been PMOing since 2009. And I've been trying NoFap here and there, but I end up relapsing at only 13 days or so. What can help me heal quicker? I feel like it will take forever in my circumstance. If I understood your question correctly, Coleman, it sounds like you didn't actually say 13 days, so I'm not sure if that's what you meant. But if you meant like you can't really get past a couple of weeks, then what will help you is discovering ways of being able to build a sustainable porn-free life. And for that, there are several routes that you can turn to. You can join a group for a starter, like the one that I described that I run, or you can join something like Porn Addicts Anonymous, which is a 12-step group for people addicted to porn, and they have online meetings. I also have an online course called My Life Rebooted that takes you step by step through that journey of piece by piece building up a stable foundation for your porn-free life and breaking that porn addiction. And it's meant to be completed in 3 to 5 months, so it's not a quick course and it's not something that you can just consume the information. It's an active course. You have to be taking actions along with the lessons. But if that is something that you're ready to do and you're ready to put in that work that it takes to really, truly change your life, then that course will help you do so. And it will teach you step by step how to get there. So go to the link tree down below and learn more about my courses there, if that's something that's interesting to you. Coleman says, I met since I was 13 years old, and I go up to around 2 weeks free. The best I went was 100 days once. Yeah, okay. Well, I know that getting this stuff into your brain when you're young, like 13, is going to make it more difficult to leave it behind. I was 9 myself when I started using, so I understand that. But it's also totally possible to be porn-free, even if it got into your life when you were that young. And my same advice that I gave applies because, it sounds like you've only been able to get to around 2 weeks free. The best you ever went was 100 days, which was great, but not enough to know what life is like permanently porn-free. So, yeah, my friend, whatever it takes, find what that next step for you is going to be. Don't just keep trying the same things over and over, because that's just going to get you the same results. Be willing to go outside of your comfort zone, take some new actions, invest the time and the energy and sometimes the money in order to find out how to change this part of your life and move into your next chapter. During the process of recovery, I have a hidden fear. What if I fall into this trap again after recovery? I did, like I said. I went into my own period of relapses after first time after 8 months of being on the journey and recovering completely from PIED, and then relapsed and kept relapsing for quite a while. Not every day, but struggling with that process again. So yeah, it's a very real danger, and it's something you'll have to be aware of and stay sort of vigilant about the presence of that danger. But it's not a guarantee, Everything in life is a risk. Just being alive is a risk. So that's certainly not a reason to never get yourself up off the ground. It's like saying, I'm not going to work out because I could injure myself. Sure, but like I'm not going to go try to find a job because I could be fired. Sure, that's a danger, but if you let yourself be intimidated by those risks into not even trying to improve your life, it's not going to be something that you're satisfied with long term, and you're going to regret that choice. So I know there's risk. I know it's going to hurt some of the time. I know that hurt, but it's worth it, and you're not alone. Another gentleman asked, I'm going to summarize this. He says he's at a stage in his recovery where he's feeling roller coaster mood swings, and he is taking my course, actually the My Life Rebooted course, and he asked about a lesson titled Towards and Away, in which I encourage people to, for a week, just as like a practice activity to get themselves thinking in this way, to write down whenever they make a choice, whether that choice is motivated by moving towards something that they want in their lives, that they value, or it's motivated by moving away from something that they're afraid of. And the point of this is that the more choices you make that are motivated by moving towards something you want, the more empowered and in control of your life you feel. But the more choices you make that are motivated by fear and moving away from something you don't want, the more disempowered you feel and the more impulsive and out of control you feel. And so the assignment is to just note down, like, okay, here's a choice. Is it a toward choice or an away choice? So it gets you to pause and consider that before you make those choices. And he says he's having a difficult time actually completing that exercise. He keeps forgetting to do it. Yeah. And if you're in that position, it's not about perfection. It's just about, understanding the goal of the exercise and doing your best. And you don't even really have to write it. If you can just think about it each time, it's going to give you some of that benefit. But by writing it down, you can, at the end of the day or at the end of the week, look and see what that ratio is between toward choices and away choices. And however you do it, even if you don't complete the assignment perfectly, it's still going to succeed in getting you to think about this more often and to think about, where is this choice that I'm making really coming from? And to make more often choices that are based on that moving towards value that you have within you. And here we have a longer question that was sent in via email before the stream. If you want to make sure that your questions are answered in these streams, then subscribe to my email list. Go to the link tree down below and get the free PDF of my book, which will subscribe you to that list. And then you'll get announcements about these streams, and you'll be able to write your questions beforehand for me to answer. He says, I'm suffering from severe PED. I started masturbating early to porn around the age of 15 and had a few opportunities to have sex until I turned 21. During that period, I never understood why I failed every time in a real sexual situation until I stopped PMO for 2 months. During those 2 months, I kept using my phone to access social media, and I accidentally cured myself just by abstaining from porn and masturbation. At that time, I was able to see my true sexual potential with the ease of having and maintaining a satisfactory erection with several successful sexual attempts. I was feeling good, with a lot of energy and self-esteem. I got into a relationship and then went back to prone masturbation, masturbated constantly in the sheets, and got PED again. And I'm still trying to recover at 26. So there you go. That fear that the other subscriber was talking about, it's a worthy fear. Like, you should be aware of that. I confess that I have already done several blood tests and everything is fine. I took libido supplements, and in my moment of despair, I started a 3-month medical treatment for shock waves in the penis, and it had no effect. I spent many periods between 1 month and 2 months without watching pornography, and then I failed. In your last transmission, you warned us about the harm of intermittent practice, and I believe that each relapse really bothered me. After a lot of struggle, I wanted to tell you that for the first time, I've been without relapses for 6 months, without PMO and without social media, eating well and exercising, but with no signs of improvement in my erection, which frustrates and saddens me. Is it possible to regain sexual desire and the ease of having an erection by waiting a few more months? Will my penis become hard again without trying to have sex to turn it back on? Yeah, intermittent use, if you guys are familiar with that concept, can cause a longer recovery once you do finally leave porn behind for good. And you being 6 months in and still not experiencing the benefits of PIED recovery after this period of intermittent use is not that surprising to me. But I hope you find that reassuring, because it means I've seen this before and I've seen guys get through that period, even though it takes a bit longer, and fully recover. So yes, it could just be a matter of time. It could also be helped potentially if you do get a partner and you do start practicing intimacy. You might find that when done gently, allows you to sort of re-stoke and reignite your sexual energy. So even if you didn't really feel libido going into that, if you put yourself in those situations, it might wake up that part of yourself and allow you to start enjoying sexuality again and rewiring and having sex again. But it could just be a matter of needing more time as well. All right, I'm going to answer maybe one or two more questions. Okay, one more question. I see we're almost at the hour and I've got to go somewhere to a family event right after this. So let's see. Solo masturbation for more than 10 years can cause psychological ED. I'm not able to get an erection with my partner, but there is an erection when I'm alone doing masturbation. Yeah, I'm not sure if porn is a factor in your journey or not, but either way, yeah, absolutely, that can happen, especially if you don't have much sexual experience. You're very much comfortable with and wired to the experience of being alone and touching yourself. So a sexual experience with someone else might feel alien. And that's something that you're going to have to get through just by practice and by communicating with your partner, building comfort, building trust, and going through that process of rewiring yourself so that your brain starts to associate new things with sexual arousal, like the presence of your partner, the touch of their skin, the sound of their voice, and so on. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Sorry if I missed your question. Email it to me if I did, and I'll include it in my next stream. Have a wonderful porn-free weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one.